A wonderful morning to all the participants who have joined the webinar today. You're looking at the endpoint management section's portfolio. These are the list of solutions what we offer under the endpoint management section in ManageEngine. And I'm going to talk extensively about the Mobile Device Manager Plus section today. So welcome you all for the Mobile Device Manager Plus training program. My name is Ruben Karthik, and I'm a product specialist associated with ManageEngine for the past 6 years. I do the training and implementation for the entire endpoint management solution. So you're looking, this is our training schedule. This is a 3-week series, and we are in the first week of the training program. And we have made it in a way where the first week of the training, it will be about the device onboarding process, how you could onboard your devices into the ManageEngine MDM, and how we can configure certain basic policies to your devices. Right? Followed by the second week, it will be about the app management part, how we can install, uninstall, and update applications through our mobile device management platform. And in the last week of the training, it will be about the modern management actions, which you can carry out on Windows 10 and MacBook using our mobile device management module. And all these training video, the training program will be recorded and will be sent as a video to all the registered participants once after the training is over. And if you'd like to see the question and answers discussed during the training program, or if you'd like to revisit the training video, you can also visit the below mentioned URL. And let's see the training agenda, what we have in store for today. So first, I'm going to give you a quick overview about the Mobile Device Manager Plus product, an introduction about the MDM and the architecture and ports required to manage your devices when you go with on-premise, and how we could onboard the devices which are new. Maybe it could be a corporate device or which are purchased new, and how we can onboard them into the solution, and how you will also be able to register the devices which are already in use. It could be a company device which is already distributed to your employees. If not, it could be the BYOD device where the employees can register their own phones into the corporate management system. Followed by, I'll also demonstrate how you could apply certain basic policies to your device and how you will be able to containerize the corporate and personal data within the devices when it comes to BYOD management. And also, I'll demonstrate how you can restrict the unauthorized access to your corporate email account. So in case if you would like to make sure only the registered employees can access your corporate email, then that is also a policy which you can apply through our MDM. And at the end of the training, I will also demonstrate or share certain real-time scenarios and the best solution, which as the potential which we have faced in our day-to-day life support experience. Okay, so meanwhile, if you, the viewers, have any questions for us, please feel free to post them in the chat, and we have an expert panel right here with me who will be able to answer your questions then and there. All right, let me give you the overview of MDM. So these are the list of operating systems like Apple, Android, Windows, and Chrome OS. So these are the list of operating system which you'll be able to manage within our MDM software. And when it comes to device type, it could be a smartphone, it could be a tablet or a Surface Hub or Apple TVs, Android TVs. You'll be able to manage these kind of device type within our MDM event. And the Mobile Device Manager Plus part is also available in 3 flavors under ManageEngine. One, as an integrated desktop central solution, which is the unified endpoint tool, using which you'll also be able to manage laptop. It could be a server, it could be a Windows or Linux machine. Along with that, you'll also be able to manage smartphones and tablets. So Desktop Central is the unified endpoint tool, and it is available on both on-premise and cloud. And you do have the standalone MDM solution, the Mobile Device Manager Plus, which is a dedicated tool to manage the smartphones and tablets in an efficient way. At the same time, still with the standalone MDM, you could do some modern management actions on Windows laptop and the MacBook, which you'd be able to understand in the 3rd week of the training series. And in case if we have any MSP audience today, so those who would like to manage devices from different companies, like a multi-tenant architecture, then we do have the standalone mobile device manager plus MSP architecture, which is available on both on-premise and cloud. So this is how the standalone MDM looks like, and where you could see the basic device information here and the inventory details about the devices. And let me log into the Desktop Central MDM too, so that you will understand the difference between standalone MDM and the unified endpoint product. So here you still have the same MDM module. So along with that, you'll also be able to carry out the traditional computer management features like patching, software deployment, inventory, and tools. You can also remotely connect to computers likewise. So along with that, you also have the MDM module within this. And this is how the standalone MDM would look like. Anyway, you would understand these modules and the features down the line in today's webinar. And we understand an MDM admin would wish to integrate with as many applications as possible. This would make the administrator's jobs more easy, so that we leverage to integrate with our own ticketing software called ManageEngine Service Desk. So you can integrate the ManageEngine Mobile Device Manager Plus with our own ticketing software called Service Desk Plus. At the same time, we can also integrate with other help desk solutions like Spiceworks, Jira Service Desk, Zendesk, and ServiceNow. And you can also integrate our MDM with Zoho CRM, which is the client relationship management software, and also the Zoho Creator. And in case if you, the viewers, would like to integrate with any other application apart from this list, we do provide the publicly available API through which you can perform a seamless integration. Even you can reach our support team in order to help you with any integration services. And this is how the mobile device manager plus architecture looks like. Be it any MDM solutions you go with, that will follow a universal architecture, which involves three major components to say. First is the MDM server. Second is the notification services. And third is the end devices. So these three components plays a major role when it comes to managing devices through any MDM solution. And in order to understand the architecture better, let's take an example. I'm an admin. I would like to find out the location of a device, or say I want to distribute a corporate application to the devices, and that has to be done within this week. So what I'll do as an admin, I'll log into the product and I'll select the required app, or I want to find out the location. I'll initiate geo-tracking command from the MDM console, which in turn will be sent to the notification services first. The Apple push notification service stands for the iOS device, Firebase cloud messaging for Android, and Windows notification service for Windows devices. So these three devices, based on which device I send the command to, these services will pick up the command from the MDM server, and using the device UDID, it will wake up the device, which in turn will contact the server. So this will have the profile, the MDM profile installed, and I'm going to show you what are the different ways we can do it. And once the device gets waked up by the notification service, it will contact the appropriate MDM server. It will process which command to execute. Let's say geo-tracking, it will fetch the geo coordinates and send back to the MDM server, which as an admin, I'll be able to see in the map in the product console. So this is how the device communication flow will be, from the server to notification service, and notification services to the device, which in turn will contact and perform the task and send back the status. And here's where the difference comes between the on-premise and cloud version. So when it comes to cloud, the MDM server is already available in the data center, and the notification services are also available on the internet. The only thing which you need to make sure is the device needs to have an internet connection. So either a mobile data, a home Wi-Fi, or any type of network source. If it is connected to the internet source, the device can reach by the notification service. At the same time, it can contact the server to process the commands you send. But when it comes to on-premise, it is going to be your own in-house machine, which will act like a server. And in order to make sure the device reaches the on-premise server, you might need to allow certain ports. And since, in case if you don't want to publicly expose your internal MDM server, that is where the secure gateway component comes into the picture, where all the internet connections will be received by the secure gateway server, and which in turn will redirect to your internal MDM and will process the command accordingly. And moreover, you might need to allow these list of ports when you go with on-premise model. So the device will use 9383 ports to contact the server, and 443 between the server to the notification service, and device notification service will happen through these ports. And you can also know more about the inbound and outbound port information under the below mentioned URL. And you might wonder, how does an MDM actually manage a device? And from the architecture, you would also know this solution also follows the client and server architecture. So you need to have an MDM profile or app installed on all the devices in order to manage. And when it comes to Android, you need to necessarily have the any MDM app installed. But when it comes to Apple, Windows, and Chrome OS, you need not install a separate application on the device. We just leverage the native OS client available on these devices, using which you'll be able to manage. And that is what I'm going to cover in today's training, how and what are the different ways through which you can install the profile or the application on the devices in order to manage. Before I take you to the process, let me give you a quick tour on the Mobile Device Manager Plus product and how it looks like. So this is the standalone MDM. Under the home section, you'll be able to see the list of devices. You manage like the device type, the OS-wise summary, let's say how many Android devices and iOS devices I have. And even when you click on the iOS device section here, this automatically takes you to the inventory page, and it will list down only the Apple devices which you are managing. So this automatically takes and applies a filter, which you might also which you can also export as a PDF or CSV for auditing purposes. And device management tab is where you do the basic management and creating profiles and policies to distribute your devices, right from passcode or Wi-Fi or any type of policies you want to remotely apply to your device. This is where you come and create. And you can distribute applications, documents, and so the basic management actions will be done from here. And inventory is where you do the asset tracking, where you get to know what are the devices you manage, and you can see the device information in detail. And you'll also be able to find out the location information of your devices under this location data. So this gives you the inventory audit details about the devices you manage. And enrollment is where I'm going to cover today. This is where you onboard your devices into the solution. There are a couple of methods we have based on the use case and based on the business need. You can onboard your devices using any of these methods, and you will understand that at the end of the training today. And reporting tabs gives you the basic predefined reports. Let's say I want to find out which are the devices has the antivirus app installed, or say any type of application deployed. You have the device with or without specific app. You can choose which app you want to filter by, and you can generate a report. And even if you want to schedule a report, like say every Monday morning, I want to know what are the apps installed on my devices. I'll go select the required reports, and I'll choose the frequency. Say, let's say every Monday morning. I'll choose the time frame here. And you'll be able to choose the type of request formats, like say you want to get this report on PDF or Excel as a CSV, and you can mention the email address here, and the reports will be sent based on the schedule you have configured here. And under admin section, this is where you create technicians. In case if you have a multiple role-based administration, you do have an option to create technicians and define roles to the technician, or even you can define a scope. Let's say this technician would be able to manage only the devices within the US or within the UK. Like this, you'll be able to select the required group and also give a role to the technicians when you add them. Moreover, even if you want to rebrand your own company logo, instead of having the ManageEngine logo here, if you want to rebrand your own company information, you do have the option under the admin section. So this is like a quick tool which I wanted to take you before I start explaining about the enrollment process. So meanwhile, if you have any basic queries related to the ManageEngine Mobile Device Manager Plus solution, please feel free to post them in the chat, and our team can help you right away. So I've taken a use case like this. Let's say I work for an organization called Zilker, and my management has a requirement of onboarding devices which are already in use, and also they do have a plan of onboarding a couple of new devices, like the corporate devices for the employees, and I need to onboard them as well. I need to enroll these devices too. So let me take one by one. Let me first show you how you can enroll a device which are already in use. It could be a company-owned device, or it could be a personal employee's own device, which is already in usage, and you want to register them with an MDM for management. And let's see what are the ways we have. So enrollment options available for the devices which are already in use is one, through invite. So you can either send an email or SMS invite through which the users can click on the invite and register the phone with an MDM. Second, self-enrollment, where the users can bring their own device by just calling to a particular URL. And when to use is, like I've said, it could be a personal device or a corporate owned personally enabled devices, or in case if you're migrating your devices from one MDM to or managing an MDM without doing a reset, then you could follow these processes. And enabling the self-enrollment or registering the device through email invite will help you to isolate the personal and corporate information within the same device. As you can see, this is a personally enabled device. You can find a separate workspace created on the device, which will have only the work application. And by default, the end users will not be able to transfer or download any attachments or files from the work applications to personal apps. So it isolates personal and corporate data on the devices. And also you can enable a separate passcode or security policies to your workspace or work applications through a product. And also you can, as I said about now, you can also restrict sharing the data within the same device or even outside the device. The work applications will be isolated within the managed devices you have. And let me show you how we can enroll a device through email invite, and I'll show you the workflow about it. This is the diagrammatic workflow through which you can register the devices through invite method. An admin will send an invite specific to users, and the user has to accept or say click on the link and register the phone within the MDM. This is how an email invite method would work. And let me show you how we can send out the invites to your user first. You go to the enrollment tab, you will have devices, the very first option under the enrollment section. And you can choose enroll, whether you need to onboard an iOS device or an Android device. You can choose the appropriate OS. And you can send invites from here. So either if you have the user's email address, you can just search for the user details and send the invites to. And even if you want to automatically group these devices into a particular department, let's say this user belongs to HR department, so I'll just send out the invite this way. And when you do this method, the user registers the phone through this particular link. Once after the devices are registered, it automatically gets added to the HR department. And if you have distributed any policies or applications to HR department, it will automatically be configured or applied to the newly added member as well. So you can just distribute required apps or policies to your devices beforehand. But anyway, when I send the email invite, the users will get the very same information populated on their email template. So the user has to click on this link, which downloads the MDM profile, and they have to provide the OTP to register the phone. And when it comes to iOS device, before you send out the email invite, you need to register the APNS certificate in your MDM service. So this APNS means the Apple Push Notification Service, which is mandatory for onboarding or for managing Apple devices through any MDM solution. So you need to have this certificate purchased or bought from the Apple and update here. And it's again free. You need to update or register the APNS certificate in your MDM server in order to manage Apple devices. And it's just a simple two-step procedure in order to register. And I've already added the APNS certificate here in case if it has not been done, Let me show you what are the steps you have to follow. Okay, done. Anyway, this is how it would look like. So you go to the APNS certificate. You will have this option. Either you need to create a new Apple ID with your organization email address. It's not, if you already have one, you can directly click on sign in, which is mentioned in the step 3. If not, you create a new Apple ID and then download a certificate from our solution, then sign into the Apple portal. So you have an Apple push notification portal, and this is how it looks like. So you will have to click on create a certificate so that you have an option to create the APNS certificate with your Apple ID. And then read the terms and conditions, accept it. Then upload the file which you have downloaded from our MDM. So you need to upload that file, and then you click on upload option, which will generate an APNS certificate for your MDM account. This is like a two-way handshake. You get a file from our MDM and upload it in the Apple push notification portal, which in turn will give you a new certificate, which has to be uploaded back to our ManageEngine MDM server. So once that is done, then only you're good to go, or you're eligible to onboard Apple devices and manage Apple devices within our MDM. And once this is done, then in order to register the Apple devices, you can go to the enrollment devices section again, choose enroll device, iOS or iPad. And you can choose whether to send an SMS invite or an email invite and mention the user's email address here and send out the invite to. So this is how you would send an invitation, and which in turn will generate a template like I've said. Maybe I'll even recreate one for you again. So you just need to choose whether it is Apple device or Android device. And as stated, so this will send to the user, and the user has to click on this link, which downloads the profile like this. And once the user accesses this link, that will prompt the user to either continue and download the profile. The user has to click on continue and allow, and the profile will be downloaded. And it's not that as soon as the profile gets downloaded, it will be installed on the device. The user has to go and verify whether it is the appropriate MDM profile or coming from the trusted source. Then you see it's the MDM profile which has this mobile device management.com, and then you install it. Once the certificate is installed, then the devices are managed with an MDM. That's it. It will prompt the user to provide the OTP, and the user has to update that information to complete the registration. And when you see in this method, this invite are specific to an individual user or an OS, and the OTP will also expire in 7 days. So if you go and check the enrollment pending status here, all the enrollment invites which I've sent will be valid only for 7 days. Then after the invite gets expired, so you might need to go and resend an invite, or select the invites you've sent and resend them. And if the user has successfully completed the profile installation, the device will move into the Manage tab. So only when it comes to the Manage section, you'll be able to distribute app or configure policies or find out the location. Like this, you'll be able to manage only when the profile is successfully installed and moved into the Manage tab. And say you have a lot of devices which are already in use, and it could be even a personal employee's own device, and you cannot go and create an invite for every user now and then. So we do have bulk enrollment for that, where you can create a CSV file which has this username, email address, and OS platform, which is a mandatory field which you need to update in the CSV file and upload back, through which an invite can be sent in bulk to all the users mentioned in the CSV file. This is one way where you can send out bulk invite. So this is one way of onboarding a device which are already in use. And then self-enrollment, where an admin publishes a common URL. This URL is applicable for all the operating systems, and it need to integrate with the directory services. It could be a Microsoft on-premise ID or Azure Active Directory service, so that the users can authenticate and register the device. I'll tell you why. Because when you see the invite method, it is specific to an individual user, and admin has the authority to send the invites to the required employees or to the required users. But when it comes to self-enrollment, this is the commonly published URL. Using this URL, any user can register their phone within your MDM portal. And without having an authentication mechanism, any user who has access to this link, even it could be an authenticated user or any common man who can register their phone, and by which they'll also be able to access the workspace. They'll get access to the workspace or what emails through which they can also make use of it. That is the reason when it comes to self-enrollment, you need to integrate with any of these directory services, the on-premise or Azure AD, to register the phone within our MDM portal. So you can add the appropriate domain information here. And then when a user accesses the self-enrollment URL, the app gets downloaded or the profile gets downloaded, and it will prompt the users to provide their AD username and password. And you can also choose whether to allow the self-enrollment method to all your Active Directory groups, or let's say only to certain managers group or audit purposes. Like if you want to specify only certain group of users can register the phone themselves, you mention it this way. And also you can permit, say one user can onboard only 2 to 3 devices. It could be an iPad or an iPhone or tablet and smartphone. Like this, you can limit the number of devices per user can onboard through self-enrollment. And you'll also get notified when a user registers the phone through email or self-enrollment method. And automatically, when an Android user gets added, let's say I want to make them, I want to add all the Android and iOS Apple devices into the test group first. So when a device is onboarded through self-enrollment, let them be added to the test group, and then I will move into the appropriate department based on the business needs. So likewise, also you can configure. And let me show you how does the options or how the users will see when they try to access the self-enrollment URL. So many clients would attach these URL along with their initial email, or say during the onboarding process itself, where the users can register their phone and then get into the work management. So when the user accesses this URL, it automatically downloads the app, and then the user needs to click on the on-premise cloud server details. And then it prompts them to enter their AD username and domain information here. So only when the allowed users enter the credentials here, then the app gets registered and the device will be listed under the MDM management scope. And by default, since the devices are onboarded through self-enrollment or email invite, these are the predefined apps distributed to the group so that the users will automatically have these applications right after the registration is completed. And it will have the work or say briefcase icon, which shows these are the work-related applications. So whatever you saw so far is for the devices which are already in use, and only there are 2 methods to onboard a device which are in use, or say which are the personal BYOD devices. One through email invite, and second the self-enrollment. All right, now let me show you how we can onboard the new devices. And when it comes to a new device, as you know, the initial setup has to be manually done by the users, or the admin or user intervention is required when it comes to onboarding new devices. And how you can tackle this or automate the activation process through our MDM. Let me show you a couple of methods through which you can register new phones. First, when it comes to automated enrollment for Apple devices, you can integrate with Apple Business Manager and onboard the devices remotely, just using the device serial number. Same way for Android, you have zero touch enrollment and Knox mobile enrollment, which is applicable for Samsung devices alone. Let's take one by one. First, let me show you for the Apple Business Manager. However, let's see the benefits of having the automated enrollment or following the corporate mode of enrollment through a solution. It gives you a full support for profiles and configuration, meaning when it comes to a BYOD phone, you saw there is a separate workspace, and only the workspace can be managed by the MDM admin. So you'll not be able to alter or or restrict any of the personal device settings on the phone. But when it comes to automated enrollment methods or administrated mode of enrollment, you get access to a full support of profile and configuration, through which you can lock any settings on the devices. And you can also silently distribute apps to the device without even the user's intervention. So you can silently deploy corporate apps to your devices, and you can whitelist application. Let's say I want my corporate devices or the users to access only to certain applications alone, let's say 5 to 6 apps alone. Apart from that, they should not have access to any other applications. So you can lock your devices with certain applications alone through enrolling through this automated or administrative mode of enrollment. And also you can control or manage the OS updates. So you can define when to update, whenever there is a new version released, you can choose when to update, and you can set the delay time, or you can test and then approve with your devices. Like this, you'll be able to control the OS updates for corporate phones. All right. And so as I've said about the administrator mode of enrollment or the automated mode of enrollment methods, whatever you see under the Apple section or Android, these are meant as corporate or administrative mode of enrollment, where you can onboard new devices and say the corporate devices where you want to get full control, like whitelisting, silent app distribution, remote control. Like this, if you want to have an enhanced control on these devices, then you might need to onboard through any of the methods mentioned under the operating system here. The top section is for personal or BYOD or devices which are already in use, and the methods mentioned under Apple and Android is for new or corporate devices. Let's see the prerequisites to onboard the devices through the automated method. First, you need to have an account with Apple or Google or Samsung, and then when it comes to Apple devices, where if you want to remotely activate the MDM profile for corporate management, the Apple devices have to be purchased directly from the Apple Store, if not from the authorized resellers. So you can find the list of authorized resellers in our website too. So only if the devices are purchased through Apple Store or resellers, you can remotely activate the MDM profile, meaning like without even touching the device on hand, just by using the device serial number, you'll be able to remotely activate, and which you would be able to see in the upcoming slide. And this is the workflow of the automated enrollment method. So you need to integrate your MDM with the Apple Business Manager or Google Zero Touch or Knox portal, and then add the devices to the portal, and then distribute the devices with the MDM profile so that it gets registered. So you integrate from the portals, you distribute the MDM profile, and then it gets registered. Let's see for the Apple Business Manager part first. So you go to the enrollment section, you go to the Apple enrollment section here, where you could see the steps to integrate your MDM account with Apple Business Manager portal. So you can download the key. Again, this is the same like the APN certificate. You would download a certificate from our solution and then log into ABM portal and upload that, which will generate a new certificate and upload back to the section here. That's it. In case if you don't have an ABM account, the Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager account, you can sign up here. And once that is done, then you can click on sign in. And using your ABM account, you go to the settings section, device management settings, and then add your MDM server. Once you click on add MDM server, it will prompt you to provide your MDM information. You can mention Zilker, ManageEngine MDM. Like it's based on your business needs. You can provide the name of it and upload the file which you have downloaded from our MDM. So the public key, so you need to upload that key here and then save it, which will generate a new S token from the Apple Business Manager portal, which needs to be downloaded and updated in the ManageEngine portal again. So it's like two handshakes. So you get a public key, upload an ABM portal, and that generates a new S token. You upload back to here. And once that is done, here is where you customize the device activation settings. As you know, even as you saw in the previous slide, if it is a new device, the initial device activation has to be done by the user or an admin, where they need to configure the Apple ID or Touch ID, set up a passcode or Zoom or Siri information likewise. Whereas as an admin, when you onboard the devices through Apple Business Manager portal, so you can choose to skip all of these steps. So you can click on this option, which will skip all of these device activation settings. And as soon as the device, the user turns on the phone, like when the new device has been distributed to the employees, when they just switch it on, it will automatically get registered with the MDM, and these configuration steps will be bypassed. And let's say this is how you add the server to our MDM. Once the integration is completed, then you go to the Apple Business Manager portal and you update the Apple customer number or reseller ID here. Remember, even I'll take you to the Apple enrollment page. So as I said, if you would like to remotely activate the MDM profile through device serial number, the device has to be purchased from the resellers or from the Apple Store directly. And you can find the list of reseller information here. So you can again go to Apple enrollment page. You will have this help article. You can click on this to know more about the onboarding or methods through Apple Business Manager. And you can also find the preferred reseller list here. And you will have to update these information under the Apple Business Manager portal. Only then the device details will automatically be synced to your ABM account. So you'll have to mention the Apple customer number or the reseller ID here. So that even, let's say, if you're going to purchase device or if the device is already procured, once after you update the details in this particular section, automatically all the device information on the devices will get listed under this particular device section, which you can see it on the left-hand side. Once after you update the details, as you can see, the devices will get listed here. You click on this device, or you can select multiple devices in one single shot and choose Edit Device Management, and then choose to which MDM server you want to assign this device to. I'll go with correct before, and then I'll click on Continue, and then the profile will be applied to the device. Now, from the admin point of view, you have integrated your MDM with Apple Business Manager portal and selected the required devices and distributed the MDM profile. So whenever when the user receives these phones and when they just turn it on, automatically it comes up with the MDM profile. This is how, as soon as the device is turned on, it will prompt the user to choose the language and connect the device to Wi-Fi. Once that is connected, it will automatically start to validate, and then the profile gets installed. That's it. And users will not be able to bypass this page. So because since it's meant for corporate phones, the user has to connect the device to Wi-Fi and then register the phone with an MDM, then continue using that. So this is how you onboard a corporate device through Apple Business Manager. And here, admin or user interventions are not required for the devices to activate or from the device in. Just by using the device serial number, you'll be able to remotely apply the MDM profiles to the devices. That's it. And in future, let's say you have procured 100 or 1,000 more devices, but still it has not been decided to which user this device belongs to. No problem. Even still, you can distribute the MDM profile, and all the devices will get registered under the stage section, meaning the devices will have the MDM profile installed and you can control them. But in order to do the location tracking or distribute app, you might need to assign a user to the device, which you can do after deciding or after allocating the appropriate devices to your employees. So this will come as a handy where you have all the you have the MDM profile distributed to all the devices and it is ready to use. When it is allocated, you go and click on Assign User and map the appropriate user to this device. And you can also define a name. So this is how you would integrate your MDM with Apple Business Manager portal, and you activate the MDM profiles. In the same way for Android, you have Zero Touch and Knox enrollment. Zero Touch enrollment is for Google Zero Touch portal, where you have to again create an account with Google Zero Touch Google portal, and again using the Android device serial number, you'll be able to remotely activate the MDM profile. So in order to choose which MDM profile you're going to use, here is we don't have a two-way authentication like you saw, getting a certificate and uploading in the portal and then getting another file and uploading back to our MDM. It should not be that way, but you can click on add configuration and you just need to copy our MDM server details and update in the Google portal. That is it. So you can just copy the JSON data and relevant information. You can update it in the portal. And once that is done, your configuration is created. And this JSON data will have the appropriate server details and port numbers which you have configured for your MDM instance. In case if you have the cloud version, you will have your own cloud account created, which will be updated in the Google portal. Once the configuration is created, then you go select the appropriate device, and then you distribute this MDM profile. And as soon as we discussed before, the end user just needs to turn on the device, and automatically it gets registered or it gets set up with the work account. That's it. And Knox is for Samsung devices. And Knox, Samsung also has a separate portal for onboarding corporate Samsung devices, again through a remote method where you don't have to physically do any actions on the device end. So you have you can create a free account again with Samsung Knox portal and copy our agent APK and JSON data, which needs to be updated under the Knox portal section. And once the profile is created, you'll be able to use the Samsung device serial number and remotely activate them. So you'll be able to do this action for Samsung devices here. Another method for Android is the EMM token. In case, say, it will not be possible to remotely activate or the devices are in the store and I cannot create a zero-touch portal account or no, then you can go with this EMM token method, which is easiest, again, where you need to physically have the device with you. So if it is Android 9.0 and later, it should be either a new device or you need to do a factory reset, because let's say it is a company phone and you want to completely take control, like like whitelisting applications or remotely controlling the devices, or say I want to apply for another enhanced level of restriction, then it should be either be a new device. If not, you might need to do a factory reset. And when the device comes to this welcome screen, after doing a reset, when you turn it on, it gets to this page. And on this screen itself, when you tap it 6 times, it will open a code scanner, and scanning this particular QR code will register the device. That's it. And if the Android version is less than 9.0 or later, then you could go with the AF token method, where the device, once after you saw the click on start option, you connect the device to a Wi-Fi. And once the device is connected to a Wi-Fi, it will prompt for the Google account. Instead of mentioning the user's Google account, you can mention our AF token, like AFW/MEMDM, which is Android for Work /ManageEngine MDM. Using this code, it will open another code scanner, and scanning this particular QR code, which is on the right side, will register the phone with an MDM. So this is how, these are a couple of methods we have for onboarding. And remember, the top left section, the first 2 methods is for BYOD or the phones which are already in use, whereas the other methods mentioned under Apple and Android, these are for corporate phones. And all of these methods require the device to be either new, if not, do a factory reset and then onboard them, so you get a complete control. So if you onboard a device without doing a reset, it will have a separate workspace, and only the workspace can be managed by the MDM administrator. Which, like I said, the devices which are already used, you have invite and self-enrollment, and new and corporate devices. For iOS, you have ABM and Apple Configurator. For Android, you have NFC, Knox, EMM, and Zero Touch. And for Windows, you have ICD and Autopilot enrollment. So these are the different mode of enrollment methods which we support in our ManageEngine MDM. Now, after onboarding, let me show you how we can define certain basic policies to your devices. So, based on my support experience, certain clients would like to apply passcodes Wi-Fi and email settings initially, right after the devices are onboarded. Let me show you those profiles for iOS and Android side by side. You can choose the profile name, and at the same time, let me create one for Android too. So for our first passcode policy, you can choose what type of passcode the end user has to keep on all the Apple devices. So it should be a 6-digit passcode. If you want to include any special characters in the passcode, you can mention. If not, you can leave it blank. And the maximum number of failed attempts. If the device is lost or stolen, or if someone, the unauthorized user is trying to unlock the phone, you can mention this, you can configure this passcode limit. Whereas if anyone tried to enter a wrong passcode for more than 6 times, it will automatically reset the device so that it makes sure the company data is safe and secure all the time. And same way for Android, you would see a different option like whether to configure pattern lock or number lock alone, or whether you want to apply this only to the work profile. So not to the entire device, but when it comes to work profile, I want to go with a number pin with 6-digit, and I want them to change the passcode every 90 days. So when it comes to workspace access, I want my users to change the passcode every 3 months, and you can apply this. And whether to give access to fingerprint or iris scanning, you can decide upon that as well. So it depends on the operating system again. And then you have Wi-Fi profile where you can remotely configure Wi-Fi policy to your device. Let's say this is the Wi-Fi accessory we use, and you can mention that. And if you want the device to automatically connect when the device comes within the corporate range, you can choose this option as yes. And if you want to hide this network and make sure it auto connects and only allow the user to use, then you do have an option to hide the network. And security type, which protocol you use for your Wi-Fi connection, you can mention that as well and mention the passcode. And not just one Wi-Fi profile, you can add multiple Wi-Fi profile under the same policy and you can distribute your device. So let's say I'm creating a guest Wi-Fi policy with a certificate-based authentication, and then I'll go with this method too. So like this, you can add multiple Wi-Fi profile and distribute. And then Exchange or email policy. Let's say you're using Exchange email server and you want to configure this remotely to your employees. Then you can choose whether you're using Office 365 on-premise and on which email client this policy has to apply. You can decide that as well. And VPN, you can also remotely configure VPN policies, VPN clients to your device. Let's say if you're using OpenVPN, you can just mention the server name and account details here. And you do have per app VPN, except only when the user uses the corporate application, I want them to connect to this Wi-Fi range. You can just mention that as well. Likewise, you can choose the appropriate VPN clients you have. Anyway, so these are certain basic policies which I want to show to you on the provisioning part. And as you can see, when you distribute a passcode policy, and you must save and publish this profile in order to apply it to the devices. So once the policy is published, say iOS webinar is published, I need to go to groups and devices. And it's always recommended to select a particular device. Let's say, let me apply the filter only for Apple device. I'll select this one device and test this profile and see whether this iOS webinar profile works fine for this particular phone. And if it is working as expected, then I'll go to the groups, select all the required groups, and then I will apply the policies to them. So this is how it is. You can select the required group or a device and distribute the policies you have created. And as you see in this image, in case if the end user haven't configured a passcode with 6 digits, let's say you have configured only with 4-digit passcode, based on the security policy you have configured, it will prompt the user unless and until he saves a passcode based on the norms you have created. So it should be a 6-digit and it should have a special character. Like it has to meet the passcode policy you have created, only then the prompt will get stopped. And then you do have an option to, by default, the Android when it comes to Android devices, the users will not be able to share files from work applications to personal applications. So if you send any attachment in a work email, and if they try to transfer on the Android devices, it will have a separate container already created, and they'll not be able to do it. But when it comes to iOS device, you might need to specifically apply this restriction. So you go to restriction tab. Not just that, you can also restrict camera, FaceTime, screenshots, and screen recording, Siri functionalities and all. And whenever you see a symbol like this is only applicable for corporate phones. As you see, this is only for supervised devices. You cannot restrict FaceTime under the personal employee's own phone. So these level of restriction is only applicable for company devices. And when it comes to Apple, the devices which are registered through Apple Business Manager or Apple Configurator are considered to be the supervised device. Anyway, so here, if you want to prevent users from sharing the corporate documents to personal applications, you need to manually apply this restriction for Apple devices. So once you apply this restriction this way, the users, before applying this restriction, see when an attachment comes up, the users can open these attachment files using the Dropbox, the personal Dropbox account they have, or any applications they use. But after applying this restriction, they will only be able to open or access these attachments only within the work applications you distribute. So even if you haven't distributed Microsoft Office through a product, the attachment file can be used only or can be opened only through our app. So you need to distribute the required applications to your devices before applying this restriction policy. And now let me show you how we can secure your corporate emails from unauthorized access. So we have the conditional exchange access feature within our product, which enforces the users to have the MDM profile to get access to the corporate email account. So you need to integrate your email server, either Office 365 or on-premise Exchange server, with our MDM. Once that is done, you need to apply a policy to the required devices. So let me show you how we can do that. Because the device management tab, you will have conditional access for Exchange, Office 360 applications and all. You can click on Exchange, go to server details. So you update the server information here. If you're using on-premise, you can mention the on-premise information in this, and then configure the policy. So whether you want to apply this Exchange policy to all your users or only to selected users. So you can choose when you go with selected users. So if you're selecting these 3 users, only when these 3 users try to access your mail server without MDM, then the access will be restricted. Whereas when you go with all the users, whoever try to access your Office account without MDM, that access will be restricted, and they will get this very same email prompt. Like say, when the user try to access without the MDM profile, they will get a message like, say, as per the company policy, only the devices registered with the MDM can access mailbox. Use the self-enrollment URL to register your phone. So this is how it will prompt the users. And an admin, you will also be able to see which are the users trying to access your mail server and what is the status about it, whether it is blocked or whether it is enrolled or not enrolled, and whether it is blocked or allowed. You can check all the device details here. So this is how you can enforce a conditional policies to secure your corporate email access. The same access. If you have an on-premise, you can choose the on-premise details and enforce the policy based on the business need, and you can check this information here. All right, so we've come to the end of the training where I'm going to quickly share some real-time scenarios and the best solutions to approach those problems. The first scenario is it possible to enroll a device which are not purchased from authorized resellers into Apple Business Manager, or how we can supervise the devices which are not purchased from Apple Store or resellers, but still these are corporate phones, how I'll be able to get a supervised control. So that, as I stated, you need to onboard your devices through Apple Configurator, so which need to connect your Apple devices to a MacBook which has Apple Configurator 2.0 and above, and you can integrate or update the server details here. This is just you can follow the on-screen instruction. go to the Apple configurator, and this is how it looks like. So you create a Wi-Fi profile and create a blueprint of it. And then you choose this option, add these devices to the Apple enrollment program, meaning even though you onboard the devices by manually connecting to Apple configurator, still these devices will be registered to your Apple Business Manager account. So you can update, you can enable this option and copy the server details and put it in the Apple configurator to assign the profiles. You can follow the steps or you can watch the video to onboard the devices through Apple configurator. Using this method, you can have a supervised control where you can lock any settings, currently distribute apps, and remotely view. Like this, you will have the enhanced control on the corporate devices, which are not purchased through Apple the Apple Store or resellers. Say, I want to leverage the benefits of zero-touch enrollment, but some of my devices are not supported. How do I enroll these? As I've said, the EMM token and NFC enrollment would be the best choice to go with. But again, you need to physically have the device on hand. EMM token is scanning a QR code based on the operating system version, whereas NFC is using the near field communication. You can distribute the MDM profile and users. So you will need to install the NFC enrollment app on any one phone or the administrative phone and start bumping the client devices, which will automatically distribute the MDM profile to the phone. So these two methods would be ideal in case if your devices does not support Google Zero Touch technique. And third scenario, as I've said about creating passcode policies and restrictions for camera face like based on the business need. So what will happen if two contradictory profiles, one with camera enabled and another profile with camera disabled, if it gets applied to a device, what will happen? So when it comes to iOS, the most secure policy will take its precedence. Meaning, even though you have, so for example, in the first profile, you restricted camera, and in the second profile, you have allowed it, still, even though you distribute a second profile with camera allowed option, for iOS devices, it will not be allowed. The users will still have this restriction applied. But whereas when it comes to Android phone, the most recent policy will take its precedence. So the second policy will override whatever setting has been configured previously. Whereas for iOS, the most strict policy will be applied. So if you want to make any changes or if you want to give any permission, if you want to allow any permission, you might need to edit in the appropriate profile and then distribute your devices. And how can we ensure users connect only to the Wi-Fi, which is distributed through our MDM? Yes, you do have a profile restriction through which you can restrict the devices to connect with the appropriate corporate profile. Let me show you for iOS. So you can go to profile creation page, restriction, network and roaming, and you have this option, connect to the device only, connect to Wi-Fi only if it is distributed through MDM. So choose this option as F. And before you apply this restriction, it's better you create a separate profile with only Wi-Fi settings and make sure that it has been successfully distributed to all your devices. And then you apply this restriction profile to your phone. Because after you apply the settings, in case if the user doesn't have an option to connect to any other Wi-Fi profile, then the connectivity will be lost and you might lose the device management scope again. It's better you create a separate Wi-Fi profile and distribute your devices and then come and enforce this policy through the restriction section. And not just that, you can also choose Wi-Fi to be always on and the personal hotspot, whether you want to give access to personal hotspot or not. Like this, you can configure these network level settings under the restriction profile. So how can we prevent sensitive corporate content from being displayed on the device lock screen? Because this is also quite a common request these days, because sometimes the payment gateway system sends the OTP and it can be even read on the device lock screen itself. How you can prevent such content being displayed on the lock screen? You have a separate restriction for that also. Go to security, lock screen notification preference, where you can choose hide sensitive content, so that it will only display there is a message from the so-and-so app, and then it will not display what is the message content being sent. So this is one way that you can apply the security restrictions here. So I need to associate different profiles to different groups with only minor modification. How can MDM help? So we've recently introduced this options to clone profile. Like say we have distributed iOS MDM profile now. So if you want to make a few changes on this very same profile, iOS webinar, they go. You have this option called copy profile. So it will create as a copy settings with whatever configuration has already been created. It will have the same settings already been configured, and you can choose only major changes. Let's say instead of locking the device with 2 apps, I'm going to lock them with 2 more applications. So likewise, you can, but let the device restrictions remain the same, and the screen layout settings remain the same likewise. But the same profile, if you want to do some minor changes, you duplicate the profile and reapply to your devices. That's it. We've come to the end of training. Please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, and where 5 being the best. Meanwhile, if you would like to have a personalized one-on-one session with our technicians, please feel free to comment in the chat section. We can set up a personalized demonstration with you where we can discuss about your use case and help you with configuring the MDM based on your business requirements. And if you like the training program, please spread a word in the social media platform with the hashtag /mobile device manager plus or /ManageEngine and spread your love. And the next training, it will be about the app management and device security provisioning, which is going to happen on 18th May. And we'll have 2 sessions, one at 6:30 GMT and 11:30 Eastern Time. That will discuss about the installation, uninstallation, and updating a Play Store and the enterprise applications through our MDM. And thank each and everyone for attending the webinar today. Take care and stay safe. Thank you all.